Okay, let's start in Crowborough, East Sussex, where residents are protesting a government proposal to house those seeking asylum in an ex-military base. Not a prison, nor a detention centre either. A former barracks that's been empty for years, and yet the reaction from the locals has been, well, let me show you. The concern, we're told, is threefold. It's on safety, a strain on public services and community cohesion. The idea is that the barracks are going to house 27 men initially, but that could go up to 500 in the future. But strip away all the noise and the message that's left seems to me to be far simpler. We don't want them here, and that raises a much bigger question, not just about Crowborough, but about Britain itself. Let's talk. So to be fair, Crowborough isn't an outlier by any means. Across Britain, people have protested against those seeking asylum being housed in residential streets, in hotels, in student accommodation, and now ex-military barracks. And it's interesting that when those seeking asylum are placed in houses, people object. When they're placed in hotels, people object. And when they're placed in unused military bases, guess what? So let's ask the obvious question. If not in an ex-military barracks in Crowborough, where? Where exactly are those seeking asylum supposed to go? And let's not be stupid about this question, okay? Let's just miss that out. And let's take into account that they can't work while their claims are being processed. So they don't have the option of renting privately. They can't just simply disappear. And the government has a legal obligation to house them. So when every option is rejected, what's left? Because at some point, not here stops being a planning objection and starts to sound like a moral one. This is the part of the conversation that we really have out loud. What if the issue isn't where those seeking asylum are housed, but that they're here at all? Now what if, and it feels sad as a Brit to have to ask this question, but what if, for a growing number of Brits, there is no acceptable location, no houses, no hotels, no barracks, nowhere? And if that's true, we should at least be honest about it. Because once you remove every practical alternative, what you're left with is an uncomfortable implication. That there could well be a groundswell of Brits who now don't care about the safety and well-being of other human beings less fortunate than themselves, that the empathy that we used to have and pride ourselves on is no more. So let's reset the conversation from that bleak realisation. Someone seeking asylum is not an illegal immigrant. They are not criminal by definition. They are not queue jumpers. Someone seeking asylum is someone who has fled their home because staying would have meant persecution, imprisonment, or in the worst cases, death. And they are someone who is asking another country, us, for protection under international law. Things like war, political repression, ethnic violence, and religious persecution aren't abstract concepts for these people. They're real situations for real people having to make impossible choices. No one abandons their home, their language, culture, and family because it's convenient. The idea that they do seems a bit weird. They do it because the alternative is far worse. So bad, in fact, that they will risk their lives crossing the channel in small boats because we've restricted safe and legal routes into the country. Human beings looking for compassion from us. And yet, listen to how we talk about them when we use phrases like illegal immigrant or alien or asylum seeker. Not people. Negative terminology reducing people to their legal status. And language matters because language shapes our empathy. I hope you all have noticed that I'm using the term those seeking asylum as opposed to asylum seeker. Because the term asylum seeker now has a negative connotation, and that connotation is designed to make you care less about other human beings who suffer through situations of unfortunate circumstances that are way beyond their control. It's designed to make people see threats rather than humans. It's designed to make it easier to dismiss their suffering, easier to protest their presence, and easier to justify leaving them in limbo. Anything to make them seem less human. So ask yourself, has the way those seeking asylum been framed in such a way as to change how we treat them and how we see them? And more importantly, has it changed what we're willing to tolerate being done to them in our name? The Overton window has been moved by the Quiet Riot because this is not how Britain used to be. We took in Jewish children fleeing Nazi Germany, we took in Ugandan Asians expelled by Idi Amin, and we offered refuge to those escaping war in the Balkans and in Ukraine. These weren't easy decisions, politically or socially, let's be honest. They weren't universally popular at the time either, but they mattered and it was done. They were statements of who we believed ourselves to be, a country that understood that safety is not something you hoard, it's something you extend. The problem with those seeking asylum is not that they're dangerous or undeserving or unwanted by some. The problem is how we've been taught to see them as burdens or threats, as someone else's responsibility. But if Britain is only compassionate when it's convenient, only generous when it's distant, then we're not defending our true British values. We're abandoning them, because forgetting our duty to protect the vulnerable isn't just a policy failure, it's a failure of memory and a failure of what it truly means to be British. It's funny because I think that's going to land with some, but not with others. But anyway, this is the end of the video, but of course not the end of the issue. What do we do with those seeking asylum? But also, why has the way we view those seeking asylum changed? Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the comments, and I'm out. One love.